Okay, folks, we just have been talking about Chapter 14, crime, and we got through our first theory, Merton's theory of anomie, and we're fixing to start talking about another theory of anomie. No, we didn't. We just talked about Durkheim's theory of anomie. Now we're fixing to talk about Merton's theory of anomie. So this is going to be Chapter 14b, okay, 14b. And I'm going to try to go about 20 minutes on this, and we'll see what we have left. So that'll be about 20 after. All right. Okay. Durkheim says that anomie or normlessness occurs whenever there's change in society. Okay, so whenever the rules break down, the community restraints are no longer holding people in check, and they're more likely to break the law. Well, Merton also had a theory of anomie, but his theory of anomie was different. Okay, anomie means the same thing, normlessness. Okay, but Merton's theory of anomie says that anomie is an inherent feature of society all the time. It's not just when society changes; it's always there. Okay, and what anomie represents is a disjuncture between what people want to achieve in society and how they go about achieving it. Okay, what they want to achieve and how they go about achieving it. So Merton was interested in focusing on means and ends. Let me get his little typology up here. Here we go. There we go. All right. So within any society, okay, people have basic goals or ends, okay, things that they want. And they've got to have ways that they can achieve it or the society doesn't work, okay? So you got means and ends. Now, let me just give you an example, okay? You guys are going to East Central. You want to get an education so you can get a good job, so you make money, so you can take care of your family. So that's your goal. You want to have money in the bank. You want to have a home for your family. You want to have a nice car. You know, those are your goals, okay? Those are legitimate ends. Those are legitimate goals. And so for legitimate goals, we put a plus sign. Some people, though, don't want to do that. They want to live they want to lay drunk all the time, okay? Or they want to use drugs. And I mean, some people, they make that choice, okay? Now, the means is how we achieve the ends. And you have chosen to get an education, and that's to get a good job, and that's the way society works. I mean, that's the way you didn't make the choice to rob banks, okay? You didn't make the choice to sell drugs. You made the choice to go through the system to go through the legitimate means to get the legitimate ends, right? So you guys would be called conformists. You go through the legitimate means plus the legitimate ends plus, okay? You're conformists. Congratulations. All right. Now, the second type is innovator, and Merton argues that for some people, the opportunities or the way they're going to achieve, the means that they're going to achieve are blocked, okay? They have limited opportunities, and consequently, they want the same goals, so they're more likely to go outside the system to get the goals that they want, okay? Now, the question is America's the land of opportunity. Does everybody have the same opportunities? And the answer is no. Obviously, some people have greater opportunities than others, right? I think when I think of somebody with good opportunities, I think of John Kennedy, Jack Kennedy's son. Jack Kennedy was the president of the United States, and his son John. Okay, I think of the advantages that guy had. I mean, he was wealthy. You know, his family had a trust fund set up in his name, so he didn't have to work for a living. His daddy was president. His mama was beautiful. He was a handsome guy. He had a Harvard law degree. I mean, he had all these advantages. So if he wants to start a job, he goes and calls a banker. Oh, yeah, I'll lend money to you. I've admired your father, and your mother's wonderful, and yada, 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 And you compare that with some poor kid that doesn't know anybody, and he calls the bank, and, they don't want to even take the call. So not everybody has the same shot, okay? There are different levels of opportunities. And so what they're saying is that if you have blocked opportunities, you're more likely to go outside the means to get the end. So who in our society has blocked opportunities? Well, you can think about poor people have blocked opportunities. You can think about minority group members. have blocked opportunities. So you have these limitations placed on these groups. So according to Merton, they have higher crime rates. Well, is that true? Are black folks more likely to break the law? Are Hispanic folks more likely to break the law? Are poor people more likely to break the law? And the answer is yes. Now, could it be that because of racism in our society, black folks are more likely targeted by the police, targeted by the criminal justice system? Jury gives them, more likely to give them harsher sentences. That's true. All of that's true. That could very well explain some of it. But we also know from victimization studies that when they go out into the community and they ask people, have you been a victim of crime? And they say yes. And they say, well, tell me about it. And it turns out that you have black people reporting other black people as the criminals, okay, then that's probably not prejudice, all right? And what is interesting is that about 85% of all crime is black on black and white on white. So you do a survey and a black person says, yeah, a black kid broke into my house, tried to take my TV or something. Well, that's probably not racism. So based upon these data, we're fairly confident that there are higher levels of criminal involvement by minority group kids, okay? And so what we're saying is that they're more likely to go outside the law to get what they want. Now, here's the thing that I want to point out. This is on a group level of analysis, okay? And so we're saying, okay, on a group level, people who are poor or minorities are more likely to make the choice to break the law, okay, to get what they want, okay? And on a group level, that makes sense. But you can't, on an individual level, say, I broke the law because I'm poor, and that's the only way I can get ahead, okay? You can't, there's this thing called ecological fallacy. Let me see if I can type that up here. And what that means is that if you're going to analyze group behavior, you look at the group level. If you're going to analyze individual behavior, you look at the individual level. And so actually Durkheim's the guy who came up with this. So what they're saying is that stuff that makes sense on the group level doesn't make sense on the individual level. So let me give you an example. In the United States today, the average woman has 2.11 kids. That's a true group characteristic. There's no woman in America with 2.11 kids, right? So on an individual level, you can't use the same level of analysis. So on the group level, we can say, yeah, people in this group are more likely to make that choice to break the law. On an individual level, you can't say, yeah, I broke the law because I'm black or native or poor, because that's an individual choice. People on an individual level make personal choices about their behavior, okay? You can't say, it makes no sense to say, I broke the law because I'm poor, because the vast majority of all poor people don't break the law. The vast majority of all blacks and Hispanics and natives don't break the law, okay? So you can't do that. On an individual level, you make a personal choice, okay? We can talk about it on a group level, though, and say that, yeah, members of this group are more likely to make the choice to break the law. You can't justify it on your level, individual level. Okay, so we have innovators, and then we have ritualists, okay? And a ritualist is somebody who goes through the means. They get up every day, they go to work, they pay their taxes, they do what they're supposed to do, but they never get ahead, okay? They never really get the money in the bank, the nice house, all that kind of stuff. Are there people like that in America? Absolutely. And then we have the retreatist, and the retreatist is somebody who rejects the means and the ways of achieving them. And my best example is the hippie movement. You know, it's kind of funny. I was the same age as hippies, okay? And I got to admit, I wore some bell-bottom trousers and my hair was longer, I got to admit. But I wasn't a true hippie. But here's the thing, okay? during the Depression, people didn't have kids. And during World War II, people didn't have kids because the guys were gone. Okay, but when the guys came back, people started having kids. It's called the baby boom. And I heard this 1,000 times when I was growing up. I heard adults say, I want things better for me, better for my child than they were for me. And so what happens is our parents worked real hard to provide us with things that they never had. And what was our response? Well, we were indignant and cynical and ungrateful. And we said, you know, I don't want to get up and work every day like you did in some meaningless job. You know, I don't want to live in a house that looks like everybody else's house. You know, so what we wanted was, you know, the hippie creed, sex and drugs and rock and roll, baby. And that's what, you know, that's what they focused on. And so they lived in communes, and they, you know, they rejected working in conventional jobs and having conventional families. And it was just kind of ironic that our folks made such an effort to give us this, and then we rejected it. Well, that's an example of retreatists. They reject the means and they reject the ends. And finally, we have the rebel. Now, the rebel is somebody who wants to change the means and change the ends. And so there's some guys that live in South Texas that want to have their own society. They want to have their own mail system, their own monetary system. You know, they don't want anything to do with America. Well, those guys are retreatists. They want to totally withdraw. New means, new ends. Now, the question is who is the most threatening among these groups? And my guess is it's the rebels, okay, because they want to change the system. Think about a bank robber, okay? A bank robber loves banks. He loves the capitalistic system. He wants to go in and rob the banks, okay? And he wants to use that money then to buy stuff just like the rest of us do. Think about this. You hear that the Vision Bank in A was robbed. And what's your first question? I wonder how much they got, right? Because you think, well, what kind of payday was that? You know, because we can kind of empathize with the crooks because they want that money to do stuff, and we want money to do stuff, right? It's just that they're willing to take chances that hopefully you and I are not willing to do. Let me give you another little tidbit here. The most popularly attended funeral in the history of the state of Oklahoma. There's one or two guys. It was either Wiley Post, okay, or it was this bank robber, and his name was I forget. His name was he was over here by Calvin. In fact, they've dedicated a room in a hotel to him because he used to stay there. Oh, Pretty Boy Floyd was his name. Pretty Boy Floyd. More people came to his funeral. Here's the deal. It was during the Depression. The banks were taken. During the Depression, people couldn't pay they had no market for their goods. They couldn't pay their taxes. Banks would buy up the property for the taxes. People hated the banks. And so when Pretty Boy Floyd comes around and robs the banks, he's a hero, right? And so when he died, everybody goes to his funeral, right? The other, Wiley Post, I want you to appreciate this. Wiley Post is from Oklahoma. In his time, he was a rock hero, okay? He was a rock star, okay? He had a ticker tape parade that is unsurpassed in history. Even the astronauts didn't get as big a ticker tape parade as he did. He flew around the world, circumnavigated the world just a few years after Lindbergh flew just from New York to Paris. Well, Wiley Post went around the world by himself, okay? He invented the pressure suit. He discovered the jet stream. Wiley Post did all that, and he's from Oklahoma. How about that? And his funeral was widely attended. Okay, so my point of that was that probably the scariest people are the rebels because they want to change things, all right? And the innovators are not so scary because we can identify with their goals. All right, let's see. Now, my last question is who is suffering from anomie in Merton's theory? And the answer is it's everybody but the conformist. It's working for the conformist. Goes through the legitimate means to get the legitimate ends. But for everybody else, the system's not working because there's a disconnect between the means and the ends. Society's not working for them. Okay, so that was his point. Okay, that's Merton's theory of anomie. All right, the next theory of anomie, or the next theory that we're not getting rung down, folks. Next theory we want to talk about is differential association. Let me talk about this, and that will be about another 20 minutes, I think. And so let me kind of introduce that. Let's see. Yeah. Well, maybe, see, that gets to the 4th page. I think I have 7 pages. Yeah, that's what I got. Okay, let's do this. Let me tell you about differential association. All right. Okay, if you look at a structural theory like Merton's theory of anomie, it's a structural theory. There's structural strain in the sense that not everybody has the same opportunity. It's a problem in society. So, but the problem with that theory is that not all people who have blocked opportunities break the law. I made that point already. Not all poor people, not all minority group members break the law. Okay, it's a small, relatively small percentage. So what is it that encourages some people in those groups that are at risk to break the law, while others don't? And according to this theory that I'm going to tell you about differential association, the primary group that will encourage you to break the law are your peers. Remember, we're talking about young gangs, okay? And a guy named Edmund Sutherland came up with this theory, and I'll tell you, he wrote a book, and I'll tell you the essence of a book in a sentence, and it goes like this. If there is an excess of definitions favoring violation of the law over definitions supporting the law, the individual is more likely to break the law. This is real simple, okay? So here's what he's saying. If you got little Johnny, okay, and little Johnny goes to school and his teacher says, Johnny, be good. And he goes to Sunday school and his teacher says, Johnny, be good. And he has 2 parents and they say, Johnny, be good. Johnny's less likely to break the law. But what if little Johnny doesn't go to school? Dropping out of school, not graduating from high school, is a big predictor of breaking the law. Even if you're married, even if you have a job, okay, dropping out of school is a big predictor, big marker. So, little Johnny doesn't finish school. Little Johnny doesn't go to church, okay? That's all been associated with. And little Johnny comes from a broken home, so he doesn't have a dad to kind of hold him in line. Little Johnny now, he's confronted by his friends and they say, hey, let's rob that liquor store. He's more likely to make the choice to rob the liquor store and be influenced by his friends. Whereas if his friends, and he's got a strong family, goes to church, goes to school, he's going to say, no, I'm not going to do that. Okay, he's less likely to do that. So when we talk about differential association, we're talking about associating with other folks, and you're at greater risk for breaking the law. Okay, that's differential association. Now, what came out of this was remember we talked about Hegel, thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. Well, the thesis are the structural theories. The antithesis is this subcultural theory, differential association. The synthesis puts the 2 together, and I'm going to tell you about it. It's a theory by Cloud and Owen called delinquency and opportunity. But I'm going to stop here. Okay, this is 14B, and we'll finish up the chapter with 14C. We'll finish up meetings. Okay.